Greetings, night wanderers and lovers of history's untold tales. Picture yourself in 1940, a 20-year-old from Lille, France, your world collapsing as Nazi boots crush the earth around you. As a prisoner of war, you're bound for a realm of barbed wire, hunger, and fleeting dreams of home. A story etched in the frost of Nazi Germany's camps. This journey, steeped in the grim reality of World War II, is crafted for those whose days are brimming with stress, seeking solace and wisdom in the quiet of the night. If these poignant, reflective tales of survival move you, please like and subscribe with a sincere heart. Share your city and the hour in the comments. Join our global community. So, dim the lights, let a fan hum softly, and recline. Let the story of a French prisoner of war unfold, its weight easing you into a gentle, restful slumber. The spring of 1940 wraps around you like a shroud, damp and heavy with the scent of wet soil and distant explosions. You're 20, fresh from the fields of Lille, France, your hands still rough from ploughing earth rather than gripping steel. But war doesn't wait for readiness, and the German invasion crashes through the border like a tidal wave, sweeping you into a hastily formed unit of wide-eyed recruits. The air buzzes with urgency, radios crackling with reports of crumbling lines, and you march southward, your uniform itching against your skin, a rifle slung awkwardly over your shoulder. Northern France unravels in days, and your retreat toward the Loire River becomes a desperate scramble. The sky, a perpetual grey veil, hiding the sun's indifference. Every step drags you through mud that clings like regret, and you wonder how something so vast as a country can fracture so quickly. Confusion reigns in the ranks, orders shifting like sand underfoot. Officers bark commands that dissolve into chaos, their voices laced with the strain of inevitability. You clutch your weapon, its metal cold against your palm, a talisman against the unknown. The landscape blurs into a tapestry of destruction. Cratered fields, splintered fences, and the occasional body twisted in eternal repose, eyes open to a world that moved on without them. A shell whistles down, its scream piercing the haze, and the ground erupts nearby. You're thrown forward, a jagged pain blooming in your leg as shrapnel finds its mark. You hit the mud, breath knocked out, hands scrambling for purchase in the slick earth. Blood wells up, hot and insistent, staining your trousers, and the pain is a relentless pulse, echoing the thunder of artillery that fades into ringing silence. You're isolated now, the retreat swallowing your comrades like a fog. The quiet presses in, broken only by your labored breaths and the faint drone of engines in the distance. You crawl, dragging your wounded leg, the mud sucking at your elbows, each inch of victory against the darkness creeping at the edges of your vision. Memories flicker like dying embers. Your mother's kitchen in Lille, the warmth of fresh bread, the laughter of siblings echoing off stone walls. They feel fragile, as if the war might snuff them out too. Then, the crunch of boots, deliberate and unyielding, cuts through the haze. Shadows materialize, figures in field grey, their helmets casting long shadows across the ground. German soldiers, their expressions carved from stone, rifles at the ready. One levels his barrel at your head, the metal glinting coldly, and a command snaps out in harsh syllables, a language that twists like barbed wire in your mind. They haul you up, your leg protesting with fire that spreads through your body. You stagger, supported by grips that bruise, your wrists bound with rope that digs deep, a promise of more discomfort to come. The young soldier beside you eyes your wound with a flicker of something, pity perhaps, or mere calculation, before turning away. As they push you toward a waiting truck, One guard grunts in fragmented French. "No more parades for you, Frenchman. Enjoy the rest." The irony bites, a twisted jest born from the absurdity of your situation, and you almost smirk through the pain, thinking how rest has never felt so far away. The truck looms, its bed already holding a few captives, their faces pale masks of resignation. You're shoved in, collapsing against the side, the engine roaring to life with a growl that vibrates through your bones. The ride is a torment of jolts and shadows. The road rutted from countless vehicles before. You bounce with every dip, your leg throbbing in rhythm, blood pooling beneath you. No one speaks. The silence is a shared burden, thick with unspoken fears. A man across from you clutches a bandaged arm, his breaths shallow, and you meet his gaze for a moment, seeing your own uncertainty mirrored there. The world outside flashes by, smouldering villages, empty fields where crops once grew, a stray dog watching from the roadside with wary eyes. You wonder if it's freer than you, unbound by the chains of conflict. The truck slows at last, and barbed wire rises in the twilight, a jagged silhouette against the fading light. Guards shout, pulling you out, and you limp forward, the ground unsteady beneath you, each step pulling you deeper into the unknown. Pain becomes your companion, a constant whisper that drowns out the guards' orders. They prod you along a path lined with more wire, the barbs like teeth ready to bite. You're processed in a blur, searched, stripped of your few possessions, a medic glancing at your leg with indifference before wrapping it roughly. The bandage soaks through almost immediately, but it's something, a thin barrier against the inevitable. You're herded into a holding area, the air stale with sweat and fear, surrounded by others like you, Frenchmen from scattered units, their accents a mosaic of regions now lost. One mutters about the Maginot Line, how it failed like a promise broken, and you nod, the weight of betrayal settling in your chest. The camp looms ahead, its barracks squat and foreboding, lights flickering like distant stars in a sky void of hope. Night falls fully as you're assigned a spot, the ground hard and unforgiving. You lie there, staring at the wire overhead, its twists catching the moonlight. The pain in your leg ebbs to a dull ache, but your mind races, replaying the day's horrors, the shell, the crawl, the barrel's cold kiss. You think of how fragile freedom is, how one moment you're running through fields, the next you're caught in a web spun by strangers. The guards patrol, their footsteps a rhythmic reminder of your new reality, and you close your eyes, not to sleep, but to escape, if only for a breath. The war has claimed you, not with a bullet, but with chains, and you wonder what dawn will bring in this place where time feels suspended, a limbo between life and whatever comes next. The truck finally grinds to a halt in the dim haze of evening, its engine sputtering like a beast exhaling its last breath. You're pulled out, your leg a throbbing anchor that drags you down. But the guards show no patience, their prods sharp and insistent. Around you, the makeshift collection point hums with subdued activity. Other prisoners shuffling in lines, their faces etched with the same hollow disbelief that mirrors your own. The air carries a metallic tang, mingled with the faint odor of unwashed bodies and fear sweat. They herd you toward a rail yard, where a long string of cattle cars waits, their doors yawning open like mouths ready to swallow. You're shoved inside one, bodies pressing in from all sides, a crush of French soldiers, farmers, clerks, boys like you, who mutter curses under their breath or stare blankly into the gloom. The door slams shut with a finality that echoes in your chest, sealing you into a darkness broken only by slivers of light through the slats. No one speaks at first, the silence thick as the air grows stale. You wedge yourself against the wall, your wounded leg extended awkwardly, the pain a constant hum that blends with the low moans of others. The car is meant for livestock, its floor slick with remnants of past cargoes, straw matted with filth that clings to your boots. As more men are crammed in, the space shrinks, shoulders rubbing, breaths mingling in a humid fog. You count perhaps 100, maybe more, packed so tight that standing becomes a collective effort, bodies swaying as one when the train jerks forward. The engine chugs to life, pulling you away from the battlefield, but not from the war, only deeper into its shadows. Hunger gnaws already, a quiet predator that sharpens with each passing hour, and thirst follows, your tongue swelling against the roof of your mouth. Water is a rumor, food a distant memory. The guards outside laugh faintly, their voices carrying through the walls like mocking ghosts. The journey stretches into eternity, though it's only 2 days, or so you learn later, when time regains meaning. The train rattles over tracks that seem endless, each jolt sending fresh agony through your leg, the bandage now crusted and useless. Sweat drips despite the chill seeping through the cracks, mixing with the reek of unwashed skin and despair. Men shift, groan, and some vomit into corners that quickly overflow, the stench rising like a living entity that coats your throat. You close your eyes, trying to retreat into fragments of home, the curve of the Lille Canal, the smell of rain on cobblestones. But the present intrudes, relentless. A man beside you, older, with a mustache greyed by dust, whispers about his family, his words a fragile bridge over the abyss. Yet, as hours bleed into night, conversations fade, replaced by ragged breaths and the occasional sob muffled against a sleeve. You wonder if this is the new normal, a limbo where humanity dissolves into mere endurance. Dawn filters through the slats, a pale mockery of light that reveals the car's true horror. Faces gaunt, eyes sunken, bodies slumped in exhaustion. The train stops sporadically, but the doors remain sealed, guards shouting threats from outside. Thirst becomes a fire, burning your lips, and you lick dew from the walls, ignoring the taste of rust and decay. Hunger twists your gut, a hollow ache that makes you envious of the cattle this car once carried. At least they had hay. A wry thought crosses your mind. Perhaps the Germans are saving on feed by treating you like forgotten cargo. A cost-effective way to break spirits without wasting bullets. The absurdity lingers, a bitter spark in the darkness as you share a glance with the mustached man, his nod acknowledging the unspoken irony. The train lurches on, carrying you northward, away from France's familiar fields into the unknown heart of enemy territory. Finally, the brakes screech, and the car shudders to a stop. Doors slide open, blinding light pouring in like an accusation. Guards bark orders, their batons waving, and you spill out, legs numb, bodies tumbling in a heap. The air outside is crisp, almost mocking in its freshness, but you gulp it down, coughing as it hits your parched lungs. Stalag XI-B sprawls before you, a fortress of grey barracks encircled by barbed wire that twists like serpents under the overcast sky. Towers loom, guards perched like vultures, their rifles scanning the influx of prisoners. You're lined up, your leg protesting with every shift. The wound now a swollen mess that draws a cursory glance from a medic who mutters something dismissive. The process begins. Stripped of remaining belongings, herded into a shed where rough hands shear your hair, the clippers buzzing like angry bees against your scalp. Naked under harsh lights, You stand shivering as they hose you down with icy water that stings like needles. The cold seeps into your bones, a prelude to the camp's embrace. They toss you a uniform, thin striped fabric that hangs loosely, marked with a number that replaces your name. You're 14792 now, a digit in their ledger, your identity erased with the flick of a pen. The cloth scratches against your skin, but you pull it on, grateful for any barrier against the wind. Muffled protests rise from the line, but they're silenced with shouts or blows, the guards efficient in their cruelty. You move forward, the number branded into your mind, a chain heavier than any rope. The barracks await, their doors creaking open to reveal rows of bunks stacked like shelves in a forgotten warehouse. The air thick with the odor of sweat, mildew, and something sharper, like despair fermented over time. That first night settles over the camp like a fog, the barracks a dim cavern where shadows dance from a single bulb swaying overhead. You collapse onto a bunk, the thin straw mattress offering little cushion against the hardwood. Whispers circulate, stories of other camps, rumors of work details, the faint hope of Red Cross parcels that never seem to arrive. A man nearby, his voice cracking, speaks of his wife in Paris, but trails off into silence. Exhaustion pulls at you, but sleep evades, your leg pulsing, mind racing through the day's indignities. Then a thud echoes, sharp and final. A prisoner, unable to bear the weight, slamming his head against the wall. The sound reverberates, a hollow crack that freezes the room. Guards rush in, their boots thumping, dragging the body away without a word. The silence that follows is deeper, a collective breath held against the void. You lie there, staring at the ceiling's cracks, feeling the loss like a stone in your chest. He was just a number now, erased even before dawn. A quiet reflection stirs. Perhaps he chose the quickest escape, leaving the rest of you to envy his decisiveness in a place where choices are illusions. The thought twists, born from the raw edge of survival, as you shift on the bunk, the straw pricking like accusations. The camp hums with subdued sounds, coughs, murmurs, the distant bark of a dog, and you close your eyes, not to dream, but to endure. The wire outside gleams under moonlight, a boundary between worlds, and you wonder how long until it becomes your only horizon. Morning arrives with a clang, guards pounding on doors, shouting for assembly. You rise, stiff and aching, joining the line in the yard where mist hangs low, cloaking the wire in ethereal haze. Roll call drags, names or numbers, called in clipped German, responses mumbled through chattering teeth. Breakfast is a thin gruel, ladled into tin bowls that burn your fingers with its scant warmth. You sip it slowly, the watery broth tasting of nothing but survival. The camp stirs to life. Prisoners shuffle to tasks, but you, with your wound, are sidelined, watching as groups march out. The pain in your leg fades to a dull throb, but the deeper ache of loss, of uncertainty, settles in, a companion for the days ahead. As the sun climbs, indifferent to the suffering below, you reflect on the journey that brought you here, the train a metaphor for the war itself. Unstoppable, confining, stripping away layers until only the core remains. Yet, in that core, a spark endures, a quiet defiance that whispers of endurance. The guards patrol, their shadows long, but you stand, number 14792, alive in a world that sought to diminish you. The wound in your leg heals slowly, a reluctant mending that leaves a puckered scar. But the camp wastes no time on idle hands. You're classified as a second-class prisoner, a label that spares you the firing squad, yet condemns you to labor. your body now a tool in the Reich's vast machine. They march you out at dawn, the wire gates clanging shut behind you like the final note of a dirge, and load you onto trucks that rumble toward the outskirts, where factories and fields blur into a landscape of forced productivity. You're assigned to a brick kiln, a sprawling pit of mud and fire nestled in the German countryside, its chimneys belching smoke that hangs low like a perpetual storm cloud over your days. The kiln is a beast of earth and heat, devouring raw clay to spit out bricks for the war effort, and you, with your still tender leg, are fed into its maw. The work begins before the sun fully rises, the sky a washed-out grey that mirrors the clay underfoot. You stand in line with other prisoners, their faces already lined with grime from previous shifts, tools handed out like grudges, shovels worn smooth from countless hands, their edges dulled by endless digging. The ground is a quagmire, frozen in patches where the cold bites deepest, and you plunge your shovel in, the impact jarring up your arms, each scoop a battle against the earth's stubborn grip. The clay is cold, almost alive in its resistance, clinging to the blade like regret, and you heap it into carts that creak under the weight. Rain falls intermittently, a fine mist that soaks through your thin uniform, turning the pit into a slick arena where every step risks a fall. The guards circle like shadows, their uniforms crisp against the muck, rifles slung casually, but their eyes sharp, ready to pounce on any sign of slowness. You labor 12 to 14 hours, the rhythm relentless, your back bending under the strain as if the war itself presses down. The kiln's fires roar nearby, a mocking warmth that never reaches you, the heat dissipating into steam that rises like ghosts from the wet ground. Your hands blister quickly, skin splitting under the friction, blood mixing with mud to form a gritty paste that hardens in the cracks. Thirst builds, a dry fire in your throat, but water breaks are sparse, doled out like favors from a stingy god. You glance at the guards during one such pause, their canteens full and sloshing, and a fleeting thought crosses your mind. Perhaps they're hydrating on your sweat, turning human toil into their leisurely sips. The absurdity of it, born from the day's grind, brings a ghost of a smile, quickly buried as you return to the shovel, the clay yielding only grudgingly. Among the prisoners, bonds form quietly, forged in shared silence rather than words. There's Henri, a wiry man from Lille with a perpetual squint, who mutters directions under his breath, guiding you on how to pace yourself without drawing attention. He was a mechanic before the war, his hands scarred from engines, now repurposed for this endless excavation. You work beside him, syncing your movements, the shovels rising and falling like pendulums measuring out your existence. Breaks are brief, huddled under a makeshift shelter where rain drips through the roof, and you share scraps of bread, the crusts hard as the bricks you produce. Henri speaks little, but when he does, it's with a dry edge, commenting on the kiln's output as if it's a personal insult. The guards watch, one particularly brutal with his club, swinging it for minor infractions, a slow lift, a paused breath. You learn to move mechanically, your body a clockwork figure in this theatre of toil. Punishments come swiftly, a tattered rhythm to the day. Lag behind, and a slap stings across your face, the guard's glove leaving a welt that throbs in time with your pulse. Complain, even in a whisper, and you're denied the evening meal, your stomach contracting around nothing but air. Hunger becomes a companion, a shadow that lengthens with the afternoon sun, making every scoop heavier, every cart push an ordeal. You watch a man falter, his shovel dropping, and the guard descends, the club falling with a thud that echoes through the pit. The man crumples, dragged away, and work resumes, the void he leaves filled by another's step. You reflect on the irony. In building bricks for their empire, you're crafting your own prison, layer by layer, a monument to endurance that no one will remember. As weeks blend into a monotonous haze, the kiln etches its marks deeper. Your hands harden, calluses forming like armor over the splits, but the scars run beneath, invisible threads of fatigue weaving through your muscles. The rain persists, turning the pit into a bog, where boots sink ankle deep, and you pull them free with effort that saps your strength. Henri shares a story one evening, as you trudge back to the trucks, about a professor he knew from the Sorbonne, now reduced to the same mud-slinging fate. The man whispers during a rare lull, his voice a rasp against the clamour. We're melting away, day by day, like wax under their flame. The words lodge in you, a profound echo of your dissolution, body and spirit eroding under the relentless grind. You nod, the kiln's smoke curling above like a question mark against the sky. The guards' cruelty varies. Some are indifferent, others revel in power. One, with a scarred cheek, takes pleasure in extra shifts, extending the day until dusk bleeds into night. You endure, your mind retreating to pockets of memory. Lille's markets, the taste of fresh cheese, the feel of soil that gave rather than resisted. Yet even these fade, overwritten by the pit's reality. A fellow prisoner jokes quietly as you heap another load, about how the bricks might one day build a wall high enough to block out the guards' faces. The humour, dark and fleeting, sparks a shared glance, a momentary lift in the heaviness, reminding you that spirit clings even in despair's grip. Nights back at the camp offer no reprieve. The barracks an echo chamber of aches and whispers. You collapse onto your bunk, the straw pricking through the thin blanket, your legs still tender, a reminder of the battlefield's bite. Sleep comes fitfully, dreams tangled with shovels and mud that swallows you whole. You wake to the same routine, the wire outside glinting with frost, the kiln waiting like an insatiable hunger. Strength ebbs, but you persist. Each day a testament to a resilience you didn't know you possessed, a quiet defiance against the machine that seeks to grind you down. The kiln shapes more than bricks. It molds you, scarring your flesh and soul. Henri falls silent one afternoon, his shovel dropping as fever claims him, and he's carted away, another void in the line. You shovel on, the rhythm unbroken, your reflections turning inward. Perhaps this is the true war, not the front lines, but the slow erosion of self under indifferent eyes. The sun sets low, casting long shadows across the pit, and you load the last cart, muscles screaming, mind numb. The truck awaits, rumbling back to the camp, where night will enfold you once more. A brief pause in the endless cycle. As months creep by, the scars accumulate, physical welts from clubs, invisible ones from the weight of monotony. You adapt, your body hardening like the clay you mold, but the cost is etched in every line on your face. The professor's words haunt, a prophecy unfolding as you feel yourself thinning, a shadow of the boy from Lille. Yet, in that thinning, a core remains, unyielding, a spark that the kiln's fire can't quite extinguish. Autumn fades like a whispered promise, leaving behind a skeletal world where trees claw at the sky with bare branches, and the ground hardens under a frost that creeps in like an uninvited guest. The kiln's rhythm slows as the season shifts, but the labour doesn't cease. Instead, it transforms, the clay now frozen solid, resisting your shovel with a stubbornness that mirrors your own growing resolve. You return to the camp each evening, mud caked on your skin like a second hide, only to find the barracks offering little sanctuary from the encroaching chill. Winter 1940-41 announces itself not with fanfare, but with a biting wind that whistles through the wire, carrying the promise of deeper trials. The air turns crisp at first, almost invigorating after the kiln's humid oppression, but soon it sharpens, slicing through your thin uniform as if the fabric were mere illusion. You huddle closer to Henri during roll call, your breath visible like fleeting spirits in the dawn light, and you learn quickly that warmth is a luxury long forgotten. The cold is a patient predator, seeping into everything. The bunks, the bowls, your very bones. No coats arrive from the promised Red Cross deliveries. No blankets beyond the threadbare scraps you share. And coal for the stoves remains a rumor whispered in the dark. You adapt out of necessity, curling into yourself at night, knees drawn to your chest in a posture that mimics the fetal position, as if regressing to a time before this madness. Sitting to sleep becomes your ritual, back against the barracks wall, arms wrapped tight to trap any lingering body heat, your toes wiggling intermittently to ward off the numbness that threatens like a thief in the shadows. The wind howls outside, rattling the thin planks, and you imagine it as a chorus of lost souls, lamenting the folly that brought you all here. Yet, in that howling, there's a strange equality. The guards feel it too, their patrols hurried, their curses muffled by scarves you envy. Disease follows the cold like a faithful shadow, thriving in the damp confines where hygiene is a memory. Scabies burrows under your skin, an itch that starts as a whisper and builds to a scream, red welts blooming across your arms and torso like accusations. You scratch in the dim light, nails breaking against the hardened flesh, and watch as others do the same, a collective torment that binds you in silent camaraderie. Dysentery strikes next, a vicious twist in the gut that sends men rushing to the latrines, their bodies betraying them in waves of humiliation. The stench permeates everything, a constant undercurrent that clings to your clothes and hair, reminding you that dignity is the first casualty in this frozen hell. Tuberculosis whispers through the barracks, a cough that starts dry and turns wet, blood-flecked sputum dotting the floor like macabre confetti. Night amplifies the sounds, the hacking, the groans, the labored breaths that fill the air like a dirge for the living. You lie awake, or what passes for lying in your seated vigil. The cold a blanket that smothers rather than comforts. Sleep comes in fragments, fractured by the chill that seeps up from the ground, turning your joints into rusted hinges. Dreams, when they visit, are cruel teasers. Visions of your mother in the warm glow of a Lille kitchen, her knife slicing through apples with rhythmic precision. The scent of wood smoke curling around you like an embrace. The fruit's crisp snap echoes in your mind, a sound of abundance that mocks the emptiness in your stomach. You wake abruptly, the dream dissolving into the barracks reality, the smell of decay replacing the imagined warmth, and the moans of your bunkmates pulling you back to the present. The contrast stings, a reminder of how far you've fallen, and you clutch at the stale bread crust in your pocket, its hardness a tangible link to a world where food was plentiful, not rationed like mercy. The crust becomes your talisman, hidden in the folds of your uniform, not for eating, though hunger tempts you nightly, but for the ritual of touch, fingers tracing its edges as if it holds the essence of home. You press it against your palm during the darkest hours, feeling its crumbs flake away like memories eroding under time's relentless grind. The cold amplifies your isolation, turning the camp into a frozen tableau where movement is labored, thought sluggish. Guards bundle up, their coats thick and envied, while you shiver in your stripes, the fabric cracking with frost by morning. A quiet observation stirs as you watch them stamp their feet for warmth. Perhaps the Reich's efficiency overlooked insulating its human tools, saving the wool for more worthy backs. The thought curls like smoke in your mind, a wry twist that lightens the burden for a fleeting moment, before the wind snuffs it out. Days blur under the winter's veil, the kiln now a distant assignment as illness confines more men to the barracks. You volunteer for lighter duties when able, sweeping the yard or mending fences, the wire biting into your fingers like accusations of complicity. The snow arrives mid-December, blanketing the camp in a deceptive purity that hides the mud beneath, turning paths into treacherous slides. You trudge through it, boots ill-fitted and leaking, the wet seeping in to numb your toes until they feel like foreign attachments. Rations dwindle, the soup thinner, its warmth fleeting as it cools in your bowl before you can savor it. You sip slowly, savoring the illusion of sustenance, while around you men waste away, their cheeks hollowing like carved wood. Henri coughs more now, a rattle in his chest that worries you, but you say nothing, offering only a shared glance that speaks volumes. The nights stretch longest, the cold a companion that invades your dreams, turning them into nightmares of endless white voids. You wake to shiver, teeth chattering in a rhythm that matches the wind's howl, and huddle closer to the wall, seeking warmth in its unyielding surface. The barracks become a symphony of suffering, the coughs sinking into a chorus, the occasional cry piercing the dark like a lone note. You think of winters past, snowfalls in Lille that brought joy, children building forts while you watched from the window, cocoa steaming in your hands. Now, snow is an enemy, piling against the doors, insulating nothing but isolation. A fleeting reflection emerges. If the cold is so democratic, freezing guard and prisoner alike, perhaps it's the only fair thing in this war, a leveler that mocks the hierarchies men build. As January deepens, the toll mounts. Bodies carted out under the cover of night, their absence noted only in the empty bunks that grow colder without occupants. You endure, wrapping scraps of cloth around your feet, sharing body heat in silent packs with those nearby. The crust in your pocket crumbles further, its grains like sand in an hourglass measuring your resilience. You hold it tighter, a defiant act against the erosion, whispering to yourself in the dark that spring must come, even to places like this. The cold tests you, stripping layers of illusion, revealing a core of stubborn life that refuses to extinguish. The routine persists. Roll calls in blizzards where snow stings your face like accusations. Work details that numb your limbs until they feel detached. You adapt, learning to move with economy, conserving energy like a miser hoards coins. Henri's cough worsens, but he presses on, his presence an anchor in the storm. You share stories in hushed tones, fragments of lives before, weaving a tapestry of normalcy against the winter's blank canvas. The kiln cools occasionally, its fires a distant roar, but the cold dominates, a sovereign that bows to no one. By February's end, the season's grip loosens slightly, thaws hinting at change, but the scars remain. Frostbitten toes, lingering coughs, dreams forever altered. You emerge from the depths, thinner, harder, the crust now dust in your pocket, but its lesson endures. Hold on to the fragments, for they are all that stand between you and oblivion. Spring's tentative thaw brings a deceptive softness to the air, melting the snow into slush that soaks through your boots. But the camp's routine remains unyielding. a clockwork mechanism that ticks with the guard's boots and the clang of gates. You rise before dawn, the barracks chill clinging to your skin like a second shadow, and shuffle to roll call, where the cold mist curls around your ankles, numbing them before the day even begins. The guards call numbers now, not names, their voices flat and mechanical, echoing across the yard like pronouncements from some distant oracle. You respond with a mumbled affirmation, your breath visible in the half-light, a fleeting proof of life amid the assembly of ghosts. The process drags, a daily ritual that erodes the edges of your identity, turning you from a man with a history into a digit in their vast ledger. Linking words fail in such moments. It's simply endurance, one foot in front of the other, as the line disperses to tasks that await like patient predators. Labour beckons immediately after the kiln's fires, now tempered by the season's shift, but the work's demands evolve rather than lessen. You shovel clay that's turned sticky with meltwater, each load heavier, the mud pulling at your shovel like reluctant secrets unearthed from the ground. The guards patrol with renewed vigour, their coats shed for lighter jackets, but their clubs remain ever present, swinging idly as reminders of authority. You move in sync with the others, a silent chorus of bent backs and straining muscles, the rhythm hypnotic in its monotony. Breaks are scarce, marked by a sip of brackish water and a moment to straighten, your spine protesting with cracks that echo the breaking ice outside the pit. Henri, his cough subdued for now, works beside you, his movements economical, a testament to adaptation born from necessity. Conversation is sparse, saved for breaths between loads, but when it comes, it's laced with the quiet acknowledgement of shared fate. The midday meal interrupts briefly, a watery stew ladled into bowls that you cradle for warmth, the cabbage within limp and decaying, its bitterness a flavour you've come to associate with persistence. You eat slowly, savouring the illusion of fullness, the broth sliding down your throat like a reluctant truce with hunger. The guards watch from afar, their own meals more substantial, and you can't help but reflect on the divide, how your sustenance is measured in survival, theirs in excess, a chasm as wide as the wire fences that encircle your world. Returning to the pit, the afternoon stretches, the sun a pale disk that offers light but little heat, casting shadows that lengthen like accusations across the mud. You push carts now, their wheels groaning under the weight, your arms burning with effort that feels eternal, a Sisyphus in stripes repeating the ascent without the myth's poetry. As dusk falls, the truck returns you to the camp, the gates opening with a screech that grates against your nerves. You file in, the yard a sea of weary figures dispersing to barracks, where the cycle pauses but never breaks. Supper is more of the same. Thin soup, perhaps a crust of bread if rations allow, and you consume it in silence, the barracks' dim light flickering from a bulb that buzzes like trapped insects. The evening hours are your own, or as much as they can be, spent mending clothes or staring at the ceiling, your mind wandering paths forbidden during the day. You carve a small star into the wooden plank beneath your bunk, the knife a pilfered shard from the kiln, each scrape a deliberate act against oblivion. It's not art, not rebellion, just a mark to say you were here, a constellation of one in a sky devoid of stars. The guards patrol outside, their footsteps a metronome for your thoughts, and you wonder if they too feel the weight of repetition, trapped in their roles as surely as you in yours. Night deepens, the barracks filling with the sounds of sleep, snores, murmurs, the occasional cry that cuts through the dark like a blade. You lie on your bunk, the straw mattress thin and unforgiving, your body aching from the day's toll. Sleep comes fitfully, dreams fragmented by the cold that seeps through the walls, turning your breaths shallow. You wake multiple times, the number on your uniform glowing faintly in your mind's eye, a brand that erases the boy from Lille, replacing him with a vessel for labor. The loss is gradual, a fading portrait where features blur until only the outline remains. You forget the sound of your sister's laugh, the texture of home-cooked bread, focusing instead on the immediate, the next meal, the avoidance of a guard's gaze, the small victories of enduring one more day. The cycle renews with dawn's grey light. Roll call pulling you from the bunk into the yard, where frost still lingers on the ground. Numbers are called, responses given, and you march out again. The kiln waiting like an old adversary. The work intensifies as spring advances, the clay softer but no less demanding, your shovel biting deeper, heaps growing higher. A new prisoner joins your group, fresh from capture, his eyes wide with the shock you once wore, and you guide him silently, showing the pace that avoids punishment. The guards, ever vigilant, strike for infractions, a drop tool, a paused breath, and you learn to anticipate, your body a tuned instrument in this orchestra of toil. One afternoon, the routine fractures with a sharp crack. A man named Louis, gaunt and desperate, is caught slipping a potato into his pocket, scavenged from the mud. The guard spots it, his shout piercing the air, and the club falls before Louis can react. He crumples, blood pooling, and the shot follows, quick and final, echoing across the pit. Work halts for a moment, the silence heavy, then resumes as if nothing occurred, the body dragged away like discarded clay. You shovel on, the incident a stone in your chest, a reminder that even small acts carry lethal weight. In the quiet of your mind, a thought emerges. Perhaps the potato was the real criminal, tempting a man to dream of fullness in a world of emptiness. The irony lingers, a dark thread woven into the day's fabric, as you push the cart, the wheels turning like the inexorable cycle itself. Evenings bring reflection, the barracks a confessional where whispers share the day's burdens. You speak little, listening to others recount homes and hopes, their voices a fragile counterpoint to the guard's distant laughter. The star under your bunk grows, a second point added one night, the carving a meditation that steadies your hands. It's meaningless perhaps, but in that meaninglessness lies purpose, an assertion against the void that threatens to consume you. The trucks rumble outside, carrying others to unknown fates, and you avoid the lists, focusing on the now, the survival that demands numbness. The weeks accumulate, the cycle a river that carries you forward without destination. You stop counting days, measuring time by the calluses thickening on your hands, the hollows deepening in your cheeks. Identity slips away, the number becoming your essence, called in the yard, etched in reports. You forget the feel of freedom, the taste of choice, existing in a limbo where action is reaction. Life a series of avoidances. Yet in that void, resilience blooms quietly, a flower in cracked earth, drawing from depths you didn't know existed. The kiln smoke rises daily, a plume against the sky, and you shovel beneath it, the rhythm ingrained. Henri shares a glance during a break, his eyes reflecting the same quiet determination, and you nod, the bond unspoken. The guards change shifts, their faces blending into one, but the work endures, a testament to human tenacity amid engineered despair. You carve another star that night, the knife steady, the wood yielding. a small victory in the grand defeat. As summer hints on the horizon, the cycle persists, but you persist with it, a survivor in a system designed to break. The potato incident fades, but its lesson remains, a cautionary echo in your steps. You eat the soup, shovel the clay, respond to the number, and sleep, the star constellation growing, a private galaxy in a universe of confinement. The camp's rhythm has carved itself into your bones by the summer of 1942. Each day a repetition of roll calls, labor, and thin gruel that slides down your throat like resignation. The kiln's heat lingers in your skin, a constant burn that mirrors the ache in your muscles. But beneath this surface, something stirs, a quiet rebellion that flickers like a candle in a storm. The wire surrounds you, its barbs glinting under the sun's indifferent gaze, yet you find ways to defy its grip, not with grand gestures, but with small, deliberate acts that weave through the monotony like threads of light piercing a heavy curtain. You move through the days with Henri at your side, his presence a steady anchor, his squinting eyes scanning for opportunities to reclaim fragments of humanity from the machine that seeks to grind you down. The barracks at night become a sanctuary, not of comfort, but of secrets shared in whispers, where the darkness cloaks your defiance. You sit with Henri and a few others, the dim bulb overhead casting shadows that dance like spectres across the walls. Stories flow, soft as breath, of homes left behind. Lille's cobbled alleys, Lyon's riverside cafes, the scent of lavender fields in summer. These tales are currency, traded to keep spirits from fraying, and you offer your own, recounting the creak of your family's kitchen door, the way it groaned like an old friend welcoming you home. Henri speaks of his workshop, tools gleaming in sunlight, and you listen, the images a balm against the barrack stench of damp wood and despair. The guards patrol outside, their boots a rhythmic warning, but within these walls, you carve a space where the number on your chest fades, if only for a moment. One evening, you risk a bolder act, slipping a carrot from the kitchen's refuse pile during a work detail. The vegetable, half rotted but precious, is tucked into your sleeve, its weight a secret that quickens your pulse. You share it with Henri and two others, the crunch muffled under a blanket, each bite a stolen victory, a taste of freedom in a world of scarcity. The act is small, dangerous, but it binds you closer, a pact sealed in the dark. The guards remain oblivious, their eyes dulled by routine, and you marvel at how desperation sharpens ingenuity, turning refuse into treasure. A wry thought surfaces as you chew. Perhaps the camp's true harvest is this, not bricks, but moments of defiance, cultivated in the cracks of their control. The carrot's sweetness lingers, a fleeting rebellion that nourishes more than your body. The stars you've carved beneath your bunk grow, a second point added beside the first, etched with a shard of metal you've hidden in your mattress. Each scrape is deliberate, a meditation that steadies your hands, the wood yielding like a confession under your touch. The constellation is private, invisible to the guards who search for contraband with cursory glances, their focus on the obvious. Knives, papers, anything that screams revolt. Your stars are subtler, a silent claim to existence, a map of resilience drawn in secret. You trace them at night, fingers grazing the rough grain, and feel a spark of agency, a reminder that even in this place, you can create, can leave a mark that outlasts the day's toil. The act is futile perhaps, but futility here is a luxury, a defiance against the camp's relentless erasure. The guards' patterns become your study, their moods a language you learn to read. One, with a scar across his cheek, is volatile, his club quick to swing, but he grows lax in the heat, dozing in the shade during breaks. Another, younger, watches with a flicker of unease, as if questioning his role, his eyes avoiding yours when he passes. You exploit these gaps, moving with calculated slowness to conserve energy, dodging blows by anticipating their rhythm. Henri teaches you to watch their boots, the way they shift before striking, and you adapt, your body a silent conspirator in this dance of survival. The kiln's demands persist, the clay now sticky under summer's glare, but you find moments to pause, to share a glance with a fellow prisoner, a nod that speaks of shared endurance, a language beyond words. Punishments remain a constant, a shadow that falls without warning. A man caught resting too long is beaten, his groans echoing through the pit, a reminder of the cost of weakness. You shovel on, head down, the memory of Louis's death, a potato his fatal prize, etched in your mind like a warning carved in stone. Yet, even in this oppression, bonds form, fragile but fierce. You share a crust with a new prisoner, his hands trembling from hunger, and teach him the pace that avoids attention, the rhythm that keeps you alive. These acts, small as they are, weave a web of resistance, a network of glances and gestures that defy the camp's attempt to strip you bare. The irony emerges in quiet reflection. The guards enforce order, but in their rigidity, they miss the chaos of human spirit, sprouting like weeds through pavement cracks. The days blur into a tapestry of repetition, the sun's arc your only clock, its heat a weight that presses against your back. The soup grows thinner, the bread harder, but you eat with a focus that borders on reverence, each bite a step toward tomorrow. The barracks hum with subdued life at night, stories swapped like contraband, keeping the spark alive. You speak of Lille's cathedral, its spires piercing the sky, and Henri counters with tales of Lyon's markets, the memory of fresh bread a shared dream. These exchanges are lifelines, pulling you back from the edge of numbness, reminding you that memory is a weapon against oblivion. The wire looms always, its barbs a constant horizon, but you find ways to look beyond, stealing glances at the sky during breaks, its expanse a canvas where clouds drift free of confinement. The stars at night, visible through the barracks slats, mirror your carvings, a celestial echo of your defiance. You lie awake, tracing their patterns in your mind, and feel a quiet strength, a resilience that grows in the dark like moss on stone. The guards' patrols continue, their lanterns casting fleeting beams, but they don't see the stars, don't sense the cracks forming in the camp's foundation, where hope takes root in secret. The routine grinds on, but within it, you cultivate these moments, hoarding them like rations, a stolen carrot, a shared story, a carved star. Each is a rebellion, small but sharp, cutting through the monotony's weight. Henri's cough returns, a low rattle that worries you, but he grins through it, his spirit a beacon in the gloom. You share a glance during a break, his eyes crinkling with a humor born from survival, and he mutters about the guards' boots, polished to a shine that mocks their muddy soles. The jest, dark and fleeting, binds you closer, a reminder that laughter, even here, is a spark that refuses to die. As autumn approaches, the air cools, the kiln's fires less oppressive, but the labor persists, your hands now calloused shields against the shovel's bite. The stars beneath your bunk multiply, a third point added. The act a ritual that anchors you. The camp's machine hums, but you sense its faltering, the guards' steps less certain, their shouts hollow. You endure, not just for survival, but for these cracks in the darkness where light seeps through, a promise of something beyond the wire's reach. The nights grow longer, the barracks a haven where stories weave a tapestry of resistance. You dream less of home now, the memories too fragile to hold, but the stars, both carved and celestial, guide your thoughts, a constellation of defiance that maps your survival. The camp's grip tightens, but you slip through its fingers, one small act at a time, the cracks widening with each passing day. The seasons cycle onward, a relentless wheel that grinds through the camp's wire boundaries. But by 1943, the air carries something new, a faint undercurrent of change that whispers through the barracks like wind slipping under a door. You sense it first in the guards' tightened grips, their eyes darting more frequently to the horizon, as if the war's distant thunder has begun to roll closer. The kiln's demands persist, your shovel biting into earth that's now baked under summer sun or slick with autumn rain. But the routine cracks with murmurs that spread like cracks in parched soil. Prisoners exchange glances during breaks, words passed in low tones about Allied movements, fragments gleaned from overheard conversations, or smuggled notes. The rumors start small, seeds planted in the fertile ground of desperation. American forces landing in Italy, their boots treading paths that might one day lead north. You listen, heart quickening, the news a spark in the dimness, though you dare not fan it openly, lest it draw the guard's extinguishing gaze. These whispers become your sustenance, more nourishing than the thin rations that barely fill your bowl. In the evenings, as the sun dips low and paints the wire in golden hues that mock your confinement, you gather in hushed clusters, sharing what little you've heard. Henri, his cough a persistent shadow but his spirit unbowed, relays tales from a new arrival about battles in Sicily, where Allied tanks rumble like avenging spirits against the Axis lines. The details are vague, pieced together from second-hand accounts, but they paint a picture of shifting tides, a war no longer inexorably tilted toward the enemy. You feel it in your chest, a warmth that counters the evening chill, though caution tempers the glow. The guards prowl closer these days, their ears attuned to dissent, and you learn to speak in code, allusions to weather or distant relatives masking the true content. Yet, in those moments, the cycle of labor feels less eternal, a temporary veil over a world that's stirring beyond the fences. The turning point comes with the ingenuity of a man named Emile, a former engineer from Marseille, whose hands, scarred from pre-war workshops, now craft survival in secret. He arrives mid-year, his frame slight, but his eyes sharp with the fire of invention, and quickly integrates into the barracks' quiet network. Under the cover of night, when the guards' patrols slacken and the moon casts elongated shadows through the slats, he assembles a radio from scavenged parts, wire pilfered from fence repairs, tin tubes stolen from the kitchen's refuse, all pieced together with the precision of a watchmaker defying time itself. The device is rudimentary, hidden beneath a loose floorboard that creaks like a conspirator's warning, but it crackles to life in stolen moments, pulling voices from the ether like ghosts summoned from the void. You huddle around it, breath held, as static gives way to broadcasts in languages you strain to understand. Reports of D-Day in 1944 unfolding like a distant storm breaking over Normandy's shores. The radio becomes a ritual, a clandestine gathering where the barracks' dim light flickers over tense faces, the volume kept low to evade detection. Emile tunes it with delicate twists, his fingers dancing over makeshift dials, and the news filters in. Allied troops storming beaches, paratroopers dropping like seeds into enemy soil, the tide turning with each advance. Your heart pounds in sync with the static bursts, the words painting visions of liberation that feel both impossibly close and worlds away. The landings in Normandy resonate deepest, a bridge to your homeland where beaches you once walked as a boy now echo with gunfire and hope. Yet, the broadcasts carry risk. A guard's unexpected check could end it all, and you imagine the device as a fragile flame cupped against the wind of scrutiny. In the quiet aftermath, as Emile dismantles it for hiding, a thought emerges. Perhaps the real engineering marvel is how desperation turns scrap into salvation, a makeshift beacon in the night. The news of Paris's liberation in August 1944 hits like a wave crashing against the camp's walls, the radio's voice trembling with the announcement that sends a ripple through the listeners. The city of light, reclaimed from shadows, streets once patrolled by occupiers now ringing with cheers. You feel the camp vibrate with suppressed energy, a collective intake of breath that swells the barracks like a held note in a symphony. No one shouts, no one dances. The joy is internal, a fire kindled in chests long chilled by resignation. Faces light up in the gloom, eyes meeting with shared understanding, and for the first time in years, the wire seems less impenetrable, a barrier that might one day yield. Henri's cough softens that night, as if hope eases even physical burdens, and you lie on your bunk, staring at the ceiling where cracks form patterns like maps to freedom. Yet, hope is a double-edged blade, sharp with possibility but prone to cutting deep when dashed. You dream more vividly now, visions of walking Paris's boulevards, the Eiffel Tower standing sentinel over a reclaimed city, but waking brings the stark reminder of your enclosure. The guards sense the shift, their patrols intensifying, searches more frequent, as if they sniff the change in the air like hounds on a scent. Punishments spike. A man caught whispering too loudly is dragged away, his absence a void that tempers the excitement. You navigate this new terrain carefully, the rumors a currency traded in glances and nods, each piece hoarded like the last crumbs of bread. The radio sessions grow riskier, Emile's hands steadier under pressure, and you marvel at how fragility breeds strength, the device a symbol of ingenuity born from the abyss. In the quiet hours, you and a few others gather scraps, cloth from torn uniforms, charcoal from the kiln's edges, and sketch a tiny French flag on a wooden slat, hidden beneath the floor like buried treasure. The tricolour emerges in faint lines, blue smudged from fingers, red bold against the grain, a vow etched in secrecy that you'll live to see it wave freely. The act is small, almost childish, but it anchors you, a defiant splash of colour in a monochrome existence. As you slide the board back, a reflection stirs. If flags can hide in shadows, so can spirits, waiting for the light to return. The guards pass overhead, oblivious, and you settle into sleep, the flag's image burning behind your eyelids like a promise. The rumors evolve, reports of Allied advances weaving through the camp's veins, sustaining you through the labor's grind. The kiln feels less oppressive, each shovel stroke a step toward an unseen end, and you share nods with strangers, a silent brotherhood forged in anticipation. Emile's radio, that fragile conduit, becomes a lifeline. Its crackles a heartbeat, echoing the war's turning pulse. Yet doubt lingers, a shadow that tempers the flame. What if it's propaganda? A cruel jest to break you further? You push it aside, clinging to the warmth, knowing that hope, even illusory, is a weapon in this prolonged siege. As 1944 wears on, the news accumulates like snowdrifts, each bulletin building upon the last. Paris free, the Allies pushing eastward, the Reich's grip loosening. The camp buzzes subtly, energy coiling beneath the surface, and you feel your own resolve harden, a quiet steel forming amid the rust of captivity. The flag beneath the floor grows in significance, a talisman you touch in secret, its colours vivid in your mind even as the wood fades. Henri speaks of home more often, his voice steadier, and you listen. The story's a bridge over the chasm of time lost. The cycle of days continues, but infused with this undercurrent, labour becomes bearable, the soup less bitter. You shovel, sweat, endure, but now with a horizon in sight, the rumours fanning the flame that refuses to extinguish. The guards' faces tighten, their confidence cracking like ice under spring's thaw, and you observe it silently, a small satisfaction in the reversal. The radio crackles on, a voice from beyond, pulling you toward a future that feels, for the first time, tangible. Hope flickers, delicate yet persistent, a light in the encompassing dark that guides your steps. You dream of gates opening, of roads leading home, and wake with a resolve that carries you through the day. The flag waits, hidden but not forgotten, a symbol of the endurance that defines you now. A prisoner no longer just surviving, but waiting with purpose. The radio static has become a familiar prelude, a crackling veil that parts to reveal glimpses of a world beyond the wire. And as 1944 unfolds, the broadcasts grow bolder, their voices carrying the weight of turning tides. You gather in the barracks' dim corner, the floorboard lifted with trembling hands, Emile's fingers coaxing life from the makeshift device that hums like a captive bee. The news arrives in fragments, pieced together in hushed translations. But one evening, it solidifies into something monumental. Paris liberated, the city of light reclaimed from the shadows that held it for 4 long years. The announcement hangs in the air, a suspended breath, and the barracks seem to expand with the collective inhale of men who dare not exhale too loudly. Your heart stutters, a rhythm disrupted by the surge of emotion that floods your chest, warm and unfamiliar after so many months of numbness. The details filter through the static. Allied forces sweeping through the streets, German occupiers fleeing, the tricolour waving once more from the Eiffel Tower's heights. You imagine the boulevards alive with cheers, the Seine reflecting fireworks instead of searchlights, and for a moment, the camp's gloom recedes, pushed back by visions of home's heart beating freely. Yet, the joy is muted, a fire banked low to avoid detection. No one leaps or shouts, the celebration internal, etched in widened eyes and subtle nods. The guards outside pace with their usual cadence, oblivious or perhaps sensing the undercurrent, their shadows crossing the slats, like bars reinforcing your caution. You clench your fists under the blanket, the hidden flag beneath the floorboard suddenly heavier with meaning, its colours vivid in your mind, even as the radio is silenced and stowed. The news spreads through the camp like ink in water, diffusing in whispers during labour shifts at the kiln, where the mud now feels less oppressive, each shovel stroke infused with a subtle urgency. Henri leans close during a break, his voice a rasp against the kiln's roar, recounting fragments he's heard about resistance fighters in the streets, barricades built from cobblestones that once echoed with your footsteps as a boy. You nod, the image stirring a quiet fire within, but you keep your expression neutral, the guard's eyes always scanning for signs of unrest. The irony strikes you in the pit's heat. Here you are, forging bricks for an empire crumbling elsewhere, your labour a footnote in a narrative shifting without you. The thought curls like smoke, a wry acknowledgement that the Reich's foundations crack while you solidify theirs, a cosmic jest amid toil, Evenings in the barracks transform, the air charged with a palpable tension that borders on elation. Men who once stared blankly now exchange glances laden with shared secrets. The radio sessions more frequent, though riskier, as guards tighten patrols. Emile refines his creation, adding scavenge bits to strengthen the signal, his work a silent rebellion that binds the group closer. You listen to updates on the Allied advance. Paris's streets alive with tanks and crowds. The Arc de Triomphe standing sentinel over a reborn city. The descriptions paint vivid scenes, the peal of church bells, the wave of flags, the embrace of strangers in joy, and you feel a pang for the Paris of your youth, the cafes where you sipped coffee. Now scenes of triumph you can only imagine. The camp's routine persists, but it's laced with this undercurrent. Each roll call a moment to scan faces for signs of the news's impact. Each meal a chance to whisper confirmations. The silent joy manifests in small acts, a defiance wrapped in subtlety. You trace the hidden flag's outline in your mind during sleepless hours. Its blue, a reminder of skies unmarred by smoke. Its white, the purity of hope reclaimed. Its red, the blood spilled for this moment. Sleep comes easier some nights, the dreams less haunted, though the cold still bites, a lingering reminder of winters past. Henri's stories gain colour, his recollections of Lyon blending with Paris's liberation, and you share your own fragments of Lille, the narratives weaving a tapestry of a France awakening. Yet fear tempers it all. A misplaced word could invite retribution, the guards' moods darkening as reports of defeats filter even to them. You observe their strained faces during inspections, a subtle reversal where the captors now carry the weight of uncertainty, and the thought emerges. Perhaps freedom's approach engineers doubt in their ranks, a mirror to your own long-held despair. The kiln's fires burn brighter in your perception, their heat a metaphor for the flame kindled by the news, warming you from within even as the autumn chill returns. You shovel with renewed vigour, the mud yielding as if sensing the change, and during breaks the group huddles closer, the radio's echoes sustaining you. Emile risks more, tuning in for updates on the push toward Germany, the Allies crossing rivers and forests that once seemed insurmountable barriers. The liberation feels personal. Paris's streets a proxy for your own release, and you allow yourself to envision walking them again, the weight of your number lifting like a shed skin. The camp's wire seems thinner in the mind's eye, a barrier destined to rust under time's inexorable advance. Nights deepen with anticipation. The barracks a cocoon of suppressed energy where sleep dances on the edge of excitement. You lie awake, the star carvings under your bunk, a constellation mapping your endurance. Each point a milestone toward this turning point. The news of Paris's freedom becomes a mantra, repeated in silent breaths, a light piercing the veil that has shrouded your days. Guards pass, their footsteps heavier with unspoken worry, and you turn on your side, the joy a quiet hum that lulls you into rest, dreams now laced with the clamour of liberated crowds. As weeks pass, the flame grows, fed by further reports, the Allies consolidating gains, resistance networks flourishing. The camp buzzes subtly, men standing taller during roll call, their responses crisper, as if infused with purpose. You share a nod with a newcomer, his eyes reflecting the same spark, and the hidden flag gains another line, a stripe of hope etched deeper. The irony of your labour strikes again. Building for a fracturing empire, your bricks perhaps destined for ruins rather than fortresses, a poetic justice in the mud's embrace. The silent joy sustains, an undercurrent that carries you through the routine's grind. the kiln's heat now a companion rather than tormentor. Henri smiles more, his cough easing in the warmth of possibility, and you dream of Paris's lights, their glow a beacon pulling you forward. The war's tide turns, and with it, your world shifts, the cycle of survival gaining a horizon where freedom glimmers like dawn after endless night. The news evolves, reports of further advances weaving through the camp's veins, each bulletin a thread strengthening the fabric of hope. You listen intently, the radio's voice a lifeline, and sleep comes with visions of open gates, the wire dissolving like mist under morning sun. The joy remains wordless, a profound silence that speaks volumes, a flame nurtured in the heart's quiet chambers. As the year draws on, the liberation's echo reverberates, Paris's freedom a symbol of what's to come, and you endure with renewed spirit, the hidden flag a talisman of the inevitable. The guards' confidence wanes, their shouts hollow, and you reflect on the reversal. The prisoners now hold the light, while shadows lengthen over their captors. The cycle continues, but infused with this promise, each day a step closer to the end. The flame of hope burns steadily, a light in the encompassing dark that guides your reflections. You carve another star, the wood yielding to your will, a small act mirroring the larger shift unfolding beyond the wire. Sleep claims you, the joy of a gentle current carrying you through the night. The whispers of liberation have built to a crescendo by early 1945. The radio's crackles now a symphony of advancing armies that echo through your dreams. But the camp remains a stubborn anchor, its wire unyielding even as the guards' steps grow hurried and their faces pale with unspoken dread. April arrives with a deceptive calm, the air softening as winter's remnants melt away, leaving the ground muddy and the sky a tentative blue. You sense the change in the wind, literally and figuratively, carrying distant rumbles that might be thunder or artillery, the line between nature and war blurring in your weary perception. The routine holds, but it's frayed at the edges. Fewer work details, guards clustering in tense groups, their conversations clipped and low. You shovel at the kiln with mechanical detachment, the clay now warmer under spring's touch, but your mind drifts to the broadcasts. The Allies closing in like a noose tightening around the Reich's neck. One morning, the barracks woke to an unusual silence, the usual clamour of guards absent, replaced by a stillness that settled over the camp like a held breath. You rise, joints creaking from the night's chill, and step outside to find the yard empty, no patrols marching the perimeter, no shouts piercing the dawn. The gates stand ajar, a sight so incongruous that you blink, convinced it's a trick of the light or a cruel hallucination born from years of longing. Prisoners emerge slowly, faces etched with disbelief, clustering in groups that murmur questions without answers. The SS had vanished overnight, their barracks deserted, trucks gone, leaving behind only the echo of their departure in the muddied tracks leading away. No gunfire marks their exit, no final orders barked, just an abrupt void, as if the camp's overseers dissolved into the mist that clings to the wire. You approach the gates cautiously, heart pounding with a mix of exhilaration and terror. The open path a portal that feels too wide, too exposed after years of confinement. The wire, once an impenetrable barrier, now frames a world beyond, fields stretching under a pale sun, trees budding with indifferent life. Yet you hesitate, feet rooted as if the ground still holds you captive. The freedom of vast unknown that looms larger than the camp's familiar horrors. Others mill about, some laughing nervously, others standing frozen, their eyes wide with the shock of possibility. The absence of guards is a vacuum that sucks the air from your lungs, and you wonder if this is a trap, a final mockery where stepping through invites bullets from hidden positions. A quiet reflection surfaces. Perhaps the true prison was never the wire, but the fear it instilled, now lingering like a ghost, even as the gates yawn open. Hours pass in this limbo, the camp a suspended animation where prisoners wander, touching the gates as if to confirm their reality, fingers tracing the barbs that no longer bite. Then, the sound of engines, different from the harsh growl of German trucks, a softer hum approaching from the west. British soldiers appear, their uniforms khaki against the grey landscape, rifles slung but not raised, faces open with a wariness tempered by compassion. They enter without fanfare, no shots fired, their voices carrying in English accents that sound almost musical after the guttural commands you've endured. They bring supplies, water in canteens that glint in the light, bread wrapped in cloth, and words of assurance that wash over you like a foreign tide. You stand among the crowd, watching as they distribute aid, their efficiency a stark contrast to the camp's chaos, and feel a disconnection, as if observing a play where you're no longer the actor, but a spectator to your own release. The first sip of clean water is a revelation, cool and pure, sliding down your throat like a forgotten blessing. But it's the food that tests you. They offer soup, real broth thick with vegetables and meat, steam rising in inviting curls. You take a bowl, hands trembling, and spoon it in, the flavors exploding on your tongue. Salt, warmth, substance after years of watery gruel. But your body rebels, the richness too much for a stomach shrunken by deprivation, and you double over, vomiting blood-tinged bile onto the ground, the pain a sharp reminder of how deeply the camp has reshaped you. The British medic approaches, his touch gentle as he checks you, murmuring about malnutrition and gradual refeeding, but you wave him off, the humiliation burning hotter than the nausea. Freedom's first gift is this betrayal by your own flesh, a wry twist where liberation arrives not with triumph, but with the body's protest against sudden kindness. You wander the yard in a daze, the open gates now a threshold you cross tentatively, stepping onto grass that feels alien under your feet, soft and yielding after the camp's compacted earth. The world outside stretches, fields rolling toward a horizon unmarred by wire, birds wheeling overhead in patterns that speak of unchecked flight. Yet joy eludes you, replaced by a numbness that cloaks your thoughts, the years of suppression leaving you ill-equipped for this expanse. You don't cry or cheer. Instead, you stand silent, the wind tugging at your uniform as if urging you forward. But your feet remain planted, the vastness intimidating after the confined predictability of the camp. Others react differently. Some embrace, laughing with tears. Others collapse in quiet sobs. But you observe, detached, as if the man who endured is not the one now free, a schism born from survival's cost. The British establish order swiftly, setting up tents for medical checks, distributing clothes that fit properly, their efficiency a balm to the chaos. You undergo examination, the doctor noting your scars, the leg wound, the calluses, the hollows of malnutrition, with a nod that conveys understanding without pity. They offer cigarettes, a luxury long forgotten, and you take one, the smoke curling into your lungs like a hazy memory of normalcy. Conversations flow in broken languages, prisoners sharing stories with rescuers who listen, their expressions a mix of horror and resolve. You speak little, your voice rusty from disuse, but the act of being heard, of existing beyond a number, stirs something deep, a flicker, that warms the numbness. As days blend, the camp transforms into a transit point, trucks arriving to ferry men away, but you linger, the pull of familiarity holding you in its subtle grip. You keep a scrap of your prisoner uniform, torn from the sleeve, tucked into your pocket without knowing why. A talisman of the hell survived, or perhaps a reminder that freedom is fragile, earned through scars. The irony surfaces in quiet moments. After years dreaming of open gates, now they stand wide, yet stepping through feels like leaping into an abyss, the known devil traded for an unknown void. The British share news of the war's end nearing, Germany crumbling under Allied pressure, but the words feel distant, your world still defined by the camp's ghosts. Reintegration begins slowly, with meals that you approach cautiously, portions small to ease your system's shock. The first solid food, a slice of bread with butter, brings tears unbidden, the richness a sensory overload that overwhelms. You eat alone, savoring each bite, the flavor a bridge to a past self. Interactions with the rescuers humanize the process, their questions gentle, drawing out fragments of your story, the capture, the labor, the endurance. You speak haltingly, the words tasting strange, but in sharing, you reclaim pieces of yourself, the narrative a thread pulling you back from the edge. The camp empties gradually, men departing in groups, their farewells a mix of embraces and nods, bonds forged in shared suffering dissolving as freedom calls. You watch them go, a pang in your chest for the camaraderie that sustained you, now scattering like leaves in the wind. Henri leaves with a group headed south, his cough better, his handshake firm as he whispers of meeting in Paris someday. You nod, the promise of fragile hope, and turn back to the barracks, the empty bunks echoing with absences that weigh heavily. Finally, your turn arrives, a truck loaded with others like you, rumbling through the gates that no longer bar the way. The world unfolds, roads winding through countryside, villages emerging from war's scars, people waving with tentative smiles. Yet, freedom feels strange, the open sky too vast, the choices overwhelming after years of none. You clutch the uniform scrap, its roughness a grounding force, a reminder that survival's price is this disconnection, a life rebuilt from fragments. The truck carries you onward, the camp receding like a bad dream, but its shadows linger, a part of you forever. The journey south is a blur of landscapes that shift from German fields to French borders, the transition marked by checkpoints where Allied soldiers nod approval. You arrive in a processing center, medical checks thorough, clothes issued that fit without chafing, and for the first time, a bed with sheets that whisper of comfort. Sleep comes fitfully, the softness alien, your body accustomed to hardness, dreams haunted by wire that dissolves upon waking. The staff offer counseling, words about readjustment, but you listen half-heartedly. The process is a slow unraveling of the prisoner within. Reunion with family looms, letters exchanged confirming they're alive, but the anticipation is tinged with fear. What if you're a stranger to them now, your experience is a chasm words can't bridge? The uniform scrap remains in your pocket, a talisman against forgetting, or perhaps remembering, its presence a quiet irony. Freedom's symbol is a piece of bondage kept close. You board a train homeward, the rails humming with promise, the scenery blurring through windows that no longer bar your view. Arrival in Lille is subdued, the station bustling with reunions that you observe before stepping into your own. Your mother waits, aged by worry, her embrace tight, tears mingling with yours. The home feels smaller, the kitchen's warmth overwhelming, and you sit at the table, hands idle, struggling with the silence that follows, "I'm back," The joy is silent, a profound quiet that speaks of losses uncounted. The war's end a beginning fraught with its own battles. The days stretch, adjustment a slow thaw. The scrap of uniform hidden in a drawer. Its memory an anchor in the sea of normalcy. You walk the streets, the freedom a garment that doesn't quite fit, but you wear it, step by step, reclaiming what was lost. The truck that carries you away from the camp rumbles like a reluctant beast, its engine groaning under the weight of men who sit in stunned silence, their eyes fixed on the receding wire that shrinks to a thin line against the horizon. You clutch the seat's edge, the vibration traveling through your palms, a physical echo of the disconnection that has settled in your core. The road winds through German countryside now marked by war's retreat. Abandoned vehicles rusting in ditches, fields scarred by tank tracks, villages where shutters hang askew like weary eyelids. The British driver hums a tune, oblivious to the profound shift occurring in the back, where freedom feels less like a gift and more like an unfamiliar garment, ill-fitting after years in chains. You glance at your companions, their faces a mosaic of relief and bewilderment, and wonder if they too feel the world expanding too quickly, the open sky of vastness that presses down rather than lifts up. Crossing into France is a blur of checkpoints, Allied soldiers waving you through with nods and cigarettes offered as tokens of camaraderie. The landscape changes subtly, the fields greener, the air carrying a scent of soil that stirs faint memories of Lille's farms, but the familiarity is tainted, as if viewed through fogged glass. You stop at a way station, where medics check wounds old and new, their hands gentle but probing, uncovering scars that run deeper than skin. Food is plentiful now, bread, cheese, fruit that bursts with juice on your tongue, but you eat sparingly, the richness still a shock to your system. Each bite a negotiation with a body that remembers starvation too well. Sleep comes in fits on makeshift cots. The softness of blankets a strange intrusion. Your dreams tangled with wire that unravels only to reform around your ankles. The train to Lille is crowded with returning souls. The cars a cacophony of accents and stories shared in halting bursts. You sit by the window, watching the scenery blur, rivers glinting under the sun, towns rebuilding from rubble, people waving flags that flutter like hopeful birds. The motion lulls you, but peace evades, your mind replaying the camp's rhythms, the absence of roll calls leaving a void that echoes with unease. A fellow passenger, a veteran from the south, shares tales of resistance, his voice animated, but you listen quietly, your own experiences locked away, too raw to voice. The irony surfaces in a quiet thought. After years dreaming of motion beyond the wire, now the train's sway feels like another form of confinement, hurtling you toward a home that might no longer recognize you. Arrival at Lille station is a whirlwind, the platform thronged with families scanning faces, their calls a chorus of reunion that tugs at your heart. You step down, legs unsteady on solid ground, the air thick with the scent of coal smoke and fresh bread from nearby vendors. Your mother spots you first, her face a map of worry lines softened by tears, rushing forward to envelop you in an embrace that smells of lavender and home. The hug is tight, almost painful, her whispers of welcome mingling with sobs, but you stand rigid at first, the contact overwhelming after years of isolation. Your sister follows, grown taller, her eyes wide with a mix of joy and strangeness, as if greeting a ghost made flesh. The family home awaits, its door creaking open to reveal rooms unchanged yet alien, the furniture polished, the hearth cold but ready to kindle. Settling in is a slow unraveling, the bed's mattress too soft, sinking under you like a trap that swallows rather than supports. You wake nightly, disoriented, reaching for the bunk's edge that isn't there, the silence of the house eerie after the barrack symphony of breaths. Meals are feasts, stews rich with meat, bread warm from the oven, but your stomach protests, portions small as you reacclimate, each spoonful a battle against the camp's lingering grip. Your mother watches with concern, her questions gentle but probing. Yet you deflect, speaking of the weather or the journey. The horrors locked in a vault you fear opening. The town buzzes with post-liberation energy, flags waving from windows. But you walk its streets as a stranger, the cobblestones familiar underfoot yet distant, as if the war carved a chasm between you and the world. Work calls eventually, a welder's job at a local shop. The torches flame a controlled fire that contrasts with the kiln's wild heat. You take to it slowly, hands steady on the metal, sparks flying like miniature stars, the rhythm and echo of past labours, but now with purpose. The clang of hammer on steel grounds you, a defiance against idleness, but the noise jars your nerves, reminders of shells and gates clanging shut. Colleagues nod respectfully, their questions veiled, sensing the shadow you carry, and you respond with brevity, the camaraderie superficial after the deep bonds of captivity. Evenings bring quiet, sitting by the fire with family, their conversations flowing around you like a river you wade but don't swim. Marriage comes unexpectedly, a neighbour's daughter whose smile pierces the fog, her presence a gentle insistence that pulls you into the present. The wedding is simple, the church's bells ringing with a clarity that stuns, but the vows feel heavy, a commitment to a life you're still learning to inhabit. She understands without words, her touch a bridge over the chasm, and you build a home together, walls rising like barriers against the past. Children follow, their laughter a sound that heals in increments, but you watch them with a vigilance born from loss, the camp's lessons etched in your gaze. The scrap of uniform remains in a drawer, touched occasionally in solitary moments, its roughness a talisman of endurance, a reminder that freedom's price is vigilance. The world moves on, reconstruction buzzing with energy, but you lag, the pace overwhelming after the camp's stagnant flow. Newsreels show victory parades, but you turn away, the cheers a dissonance to your internal silence. Friends from before the war seek you out, their questions probing, but you deflect with humour's shield, joking about the camp's vacation that no one recommends. The irony lingers in your reflections. Freedom arrived like an uninvited guest, overstaying its welcome in awkwardness, while captivity's structure now feels like a lost anchor in life's chaotic sea. Years blend, the welder's torch a constant, its flame a controlled burn that mirrors your managed emotions. Family gatherings bring joy, but solitude calls, walks along the canal where water flows unimpeded. A metaphor for the life you reclaim, drop by drop. The scrap endures, faded but intact, a silent witness to the man who emerged from shadows, scarred but standing. The war's end is not an end, but a threshold, and you cross it daily, step by measured step. The journey home is ongoing, the world a puzzle with pieces that no longer fit seamlessly, but you assemble it, piece by piece. The uniforms scrap a cornerstone in the foundation. Sleep comes easier with time, the nightmares fading like ink in water, replaced by dreams of open fields where wire never existed. You live, a testament to resilience. The past a shadow that lengthens but doesn't engulf. The home's hearth glows, family voices a soothing hum, and you sit, content in the quiet victory of ordinary days. The scrap rests in its drawer, a relic of a time when survival was the only art, now supplanted by the craft of living. Lille unfolds before you, like a half-remembered dream, its streets familiar, yet strange, as if the war redrew their contours while you were away. The years since your return in 1945 have settled into a rhythm, a quiet life built brick by brick in the shadow of peace. You're a welder now, the torch's flame a steady companion, its sparks dancing like fireflies against the metal, each weld a small act of creation that grounds you in the present. Your home, shared with a wife whose gentle presence softens the edges of your past, hums with the daily rituals of domesticity, meals served on chipped plates, laughter of children echoing through rooms once silent with your absence. Yet, beneath this veneer, the camp lingers, a ghost that haunts the quiet moments, its wire and cold woven into the fabric of your sleep, where roll calls still echo and the smell of stale soup clings to your senses. The world outside celebrates its recovery, France rebuilding with fervour, new buildings rising where rubble once lay, and the air carries the optimism of a nation reborn. You walk through Lille's markets, the stalls vibrant with colours you'd forgotten. Apples red as defiance, bread golden and warm. But you pause, the bustle overwhelming, the crowds a reminder of the barracks crush. People speak of the war in heroic tones, tales of resistance fighters and Allied triumphs dominating conversations. But your story, the prisoner's story, finds no echo. Neighbours nod, their smiles polite, but their eyes slide away when you mention the camp, as if the word Stalag carries a contagion they fear. You learn to keep silent, the weight of your experiences locked in a vault only you can open. The key a rusted POW tag tucked in a drawer, its edges softened by time but sharp with memory. Nights are the hardest, the quiet amplifying the past's whispers. You lie in bed, the mattress too soft, its comfort a betrayal after years on straw and wood. Sleep comes reluctantly, fractured by dreams where you're back in the yard, number 17792, called in a German accent, the wire glinting under a moon that never wanes. You wake, heart racing, your wife's steady breathing a lifeline pulling you back. She senses the unrest, her hand finding yours in the dark, but you don't speak of it, the words too heavy, too raw. Instead, you rise before dawn, stepping outside to watch the city stir, the first light painting the rooftops in hues that remind you of freedom's tentative glow. The irony surfaces in these moments. You survived the camp's confinement only to find silence a new kind of cage, one built by a world eager to forget the unheroic scars. Work offers solace, the welder's shop a sanctuary, where the torch's hiss drowns out memory's clamour. You shape metal with precision, each seam a small victory over chaos, the sparks mirroring the stars you carved into the barracks wood, a constellation of endurance now replaced by tangible creation. Colleagues respect your quiet diligence, their chatter filling the gaps you leave, but they don't ask about the war, and you don't offer. A younger worker once jokes, "You weld like you're building a fortress, expecting the Germans back." The quip, born from ignorance, stings with its unintended truth, and you offer a thin smile, the humour dark as the camp's nights, a reminder that some walls are built within. You return to your task, the flame steady, its heat a controlled echo of the kiln's unrelenting fire. Your children grow, their faces a blend of your wife's warmth and your own guarded resilience, their questions about the war innocent but piercing. You deflect with stories of Lille's history, the cathedral's spires, the canal's curves, but their curiosity lingers, sensing the gaps in your tales. One evening, your grandson, barely 10, rummages through a dusty box in the attic, unearthing the rusted prisoner of war tag, its numbers faint but indelible. He holds it up, eyes wide with wonder, and asks what it means. The room stills, your wife pausing at the stove, and you take the tag, its weight heavier than memory itself. "I didn't fight in the war," you say, voice low. "I was forgotten in it." The words hang, a confession and a release, the boy's gaze holding yours, searching for stories you've buried. You don't elaborate, the vault still locked, but the tag remains out. A relic on the mantle, a silent testament to survival. The years stretch, each one layering distance over the past, but the camp's shadow never fully fades. You walk the canal at dusk, the water reflecting a sky that feels too vast, its freedom a contrast to the confinement that shaped you. Neighbors age alongside you, their lives filled with new worries, jobs, politics, the future, while yours carries the weight of yesterday, the tag a touchstone you graze in quiet moments, its roughness grounding you. The world moves forward, television screens flashing images of progress, but you avoid war films, their dramatized heroics a mockery of your quiet endurance. Friends invite you to reunions, gatherings of veterans, but you decline, the camaraderie of the barracks a memory too sacred for public display, its bonds forged in silence rather than celebration. Your wife's laughter fills the house, a balm that heals in increments, and you find joy in small things, the smell of her cooking, the chatter of your children, the rhythm of welding that orders your days. Yet, the past intrudes, unbidden, in the clatter of a dropped tool, the chill of a winter night, the sight of barbed wire on a farmer's fence. You pause then, breath catching, the camp's echo a pulse beneath your skin. You don't speak of it, but you carry it, a burden lightened by time but never shed. The irony lingers in these reflections. The world celebrates freedom with fanfare, yet your liberation was a quiet thing, a gate opening to a life that demanded you rebuild yourself from fragments, each piece a scar of resilience. Decades pass, the tag gathering dust, its significance known only to you. Your grandson grows, his curiosity undimmed, and he asks again, older now, about the camp. You share fragments, a bunk's creak, a flag drawn in secret, the taste of stolen bread. Each word a careful excavation, unearthing what you've long buried. He listens, rapt, the history a bridge between your worlds, and you see in his eyes the gratitude for a present unmarred by such trials. The act of telling is a release, the vault cracking open, letting light touch the darkness within. You don't glorify it, don't dramatize. It's simply truth, raw and unadorned, a story of survival that speaks to the strength of those who endured the uncelebrated battles. The house quiets at night, the children groan, the city settling into its own rhythm. You sit by the fire, its warmth a stark contrast to the camp's cold, and reflect on the arc of your life. A boy from Lille, a prisoner, a survivor, now a man whose scars tell a story few hear. The tag remains, a relic of a time when numbers replaced names, yet you reclaimed yours, piece by piece, through years of quiet defiance. The world outside hums with progress, but you cherish the stillness, the ordinary moments that war could not steal. Sleep comes easier now, the nightmares are fewer, though the camp never fully leaves. You dream sometimes of open fields, the wire gone, the sky endless, and wake with a peace that feels earned. The tag rests in his drawer, a silent witness to your endurance, a reminder that oblivion tried but failed to claim you. Life, with its small joys and persistent shadows, is your victory, a testament to the human spirit's refusal to break. The stars outside shine, their light a soft echo of the ones you carved, and you close your eyes, letting the past recede into the night's embrace, the memories settling like dust, present but no longer suffocating. As the echoes of Lille fade, you've walked the shadowed path of a prisoner, from barbed wire's grip to freedom's fragile dawn. Each scar, each silent star carved in secret, whispers of a spirit unbroken, a life reclaimed from oblivion's edge. Now, let your shoulders soften, your breath slow, like leaves drifting on a midnight breeze. Feel the weight of the day slip away, the camp's cold dissolving into the warmth of your bed. If your eyes still linger in the dark, share your thoughts below. Where are you? What hour holds you? Let this story cradle you into sleep, a gentle tide pulling you under. Tomorrow night, another tale awaits, whispering through history's quiet corners. Close your eyes, let the stars above Lille guide you, and drift into dreams where wire fades and peace blooms soft as moonlight.